You've worked for decades, tried to be disciplined, saving and investing in hopes of achieving financial freedom. And you've been led to believe creating this perfect financial picture is one size fits all. But the truth is, no one's like you. Your perfect financial picture won't look like anyone else's. You deserve a financial strategy just as unique as you are. So how do you navigate the complexities and volatility of a financial environment that just never sits still? How do you find the guidance you need? Who do you trust with the wisdom to create your financial masterpiece? You've arrived. This is the Wealth Council. So glad you're with us on the Wealth Council. Thanks for joining us. Brad Johansson with independent advisors around the country as we try to help you retire the right way. We'll continue to move forward on that because you have asked for it. Grateful for your time on this program, making it appointment TV for a lot of you. Let's try and make it worth your time today as we talk about something that, man, I'm not sure anybody can agree on the numbers on this, but you should probably listen to the government on inflation, right? Inflation is probably around 2%. You hear laughter already in the background. Maybe we move forward on that with why we need to adjust from what the government is telling us on inflation. Prashant Sabapathy out of Baltimore, Maryland, Washington, D.C. Nice to have you with us. Rebecca Walzer serving clients all around the country, based out of Tampa, Florida, and based out of St. Louis. Don Chamberlain serving clients around the country. Why so much laughter, folks, when I say the government says we should be looking in the twos for inflation? Rebecca, you want to start us out with that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sound hyperbolic on this, but I will say that we are in the middle. It has begun, and you can look at metals and metal prices to see that since the pandemic, really. We are at the very end of what we would call fiat currency. You know, Brad, what this means is we are moving to the digital blockchain. Currency is moving to that area. I can't tell you if it's going to be 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, 2 years, 3 years. It is coming fast. And what that means is let me just ask you, right? Gold, $4,800 an ounce, unheard of. Now it'll retrench and come back and retrench, but what we're looking at here is how much the world has inflated their currencies. In 2020, worldwide, we printed the equivalent of 20 trillion US dollars. That is unabsorbable without massive inflation.
Yeah.
And so this is what's happening, and you're starting to see it now directly in metals. As central banks really realize, while we are moving to a different currency, they are buying up metals in spades, and they're actually taking physical delivery. So this is the beginning of the underpinnings of the beginning of moving to the blockchain, and inflation is dealing with the fact that central banks can just print at infinitum currency.
Don, why should we worry about this in retirement?
Well, it's because of the history of this, right?
Yeah, okay.
And so if you look at the years 2010, 2011, 2016, there was 0% increase in Social Security cost of living adjustments. So very, very low inflation rate. So people did not get an increase in their Social Security check. But yet from 2021 to 2025, 17% increase in inflation over a 5-year period. Now, think back to when you were younger, late 70s, early 80s.
I'm trying to work on that.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
That might take a little bit, but
Yeah.
but the inflation rate for 1978 to 1982, another 5-year period, was 48%. Imagine retiring and you have a 48% increase in inflation the first 5 years you've retired. So we really have to consider and really think hard about what Rebecca said about what we see coming for inflation for people's retirements.
Accumulation advisors, Prashant, they say we don't really need to figure these numbers into a retirement plan, leave it where it is. Why is this wrong?
It's all about the income when you get to retirement. Look, while you're working, your financial life really just is money coming in and money going out. And when you retire, that money in, money out concept does not change. But what changes is where the money in comes from. And so inflation is one of the classic cases of what I would call a financial termite. You don't feel it in any given year that strongly, but it's a type of thing that just eats and eats and eats at your retirement plan until it's too late. To make it really simple, we know inflation's going to be there. What is the answer to higher inflation? It's super simple. It's higher income. The more income you have, the better prepared you are to deal with inflation. So let's reframe our mindset, not to think about how much money we have, but to think about how much income that money can generate for us so that we can live our life in the most fulfilling way possible that we deserve to after 30 or 40 years of really hard work.
Let me pause the discussion because people are going, I'm not ready for this. Okay, we'll help you with that. Retirement readiness quiz. We'll put this up on the screen. You can scan the QR code to find out how ready you are. Like you say, Rebecca, I don't want to be hyperbolic about this, but you're saying there are massive changes coming to the point of understanding the way the currency is working right now is not going to be the way. Look, if we're talking about a 30-year retirement, you're saying there are massive changes that we have to play with inflation on this?
Yeah, I mean, the Congress is dealing with right now in 2026. We're looking at the Clarity Act. We're looking at the Market Structure Act. The Congress and banks are already trying to sort of stop the stablecoin projection and the blockchain move, and it's not stoppable. We are on the digital currency path. It is coming, and all I say to that is that's good. That is really good because that's transparency.
Because it's transparency.
Is transparent.
Okay.
So the governments of the world are not going to be able to backdoor in $22 billion overnight like they can in the reverse repo market and get our market stabilized and deal with the inflation problem later. So this is coming, and you just need to be talking to an advisor that understands that there is an economic global currency shift to the blockchain, and how could that impact you, and what can we do to position some of our risk on assets to be ready to deal with the blockchain.
And Don, people will say, I'll wait for that. Let me just wait and see how that works out. How's it work out for most clients?
I'd say good luck with that. I mean, I really, if it were me, I wouldn't be waiting. I'd be planning for it. I'd be getting ready. I'd be finding information. I've been seeking advisors like what Rebecca's suggesting that have experience in this area to prepare for this. I'm always about planning. I always say plan before. So in this case, we need to plan before inflation.
Prashant, this goes to the what if. I mean, what we speak on all the time. Okay, maybe it doesn't work out exactly the way we're saying. Your plans, as you say, and what all of you are talking about is, okay, what if it isn't the what? How do we plan, and where does the money come from if we're going to do this?
Look, very rarely is the plan that you start with the plan that you end with. It's not so much about getting the perfect plan in place today. It's about getting a plan in place today that you can then do maintenance on as your life changes, as the world changes, as the legislative structure influences policy. You want to make sure that you can adjust an already existing plan. But so many people don't even take the time to put the initial plan together. You have to take action today to get that started.
I got a guarantee for you. Something's going to change. Make the call now. On your screen, it's the Council's wisdom. It's your wealth. We're back with much more after this.
He's always there, watching over you, guiding almost every decision you make, in every paycheck, every transaction, every little thing you earn. Even your private moments are not immune. Want to remove Uncle Sam from your retirement?
Welcome back to the Wealth Council. Brad Johansson, along with independent advisors around the country, continue to bring up topics that you may need to know as you put together your retirement plan. Charitable giving is a part of a lot of your lives, but doing it the right way and the most tax-efficient way is what we want to talk about today. Joe Wilson, Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, nice to have you here. Stuart Willis out of Arizona, Denver, Las Vegas, and Pacific Northwest. Gentlemen, you've covered a lot of areas, which means that there's a lot of charitable giving, and the rules change If I give, I give. I like what I give. I like who I give. Why do I need to know the rules, Stuart, on charitable giving?
Well, I think it's first important to understand what you're trying to accomplish and what the most efficient way to do it is. Here's an example. A lot of people will tithe to their church, for example, and they believe they're getting a tax deduction for doing it. The problem is, in a lot of these cases, they're not even using the full standard deduction, meaning they don't itemize. So it doesn't do any good at all. Well, there is a strategy for people, if you're over 70 and a half years old, to be able to use what used to be RMDs, because they didn't change it, but it's called a QCD, a Qualified Charitable Distribution, which allows you to gift to these charities completely tax-free from these tax-deferred investments like your IRAs and your 401ks.
Age requirement on that. Why is this significant for people who are under that age, Joe?
Well, because there's some other things you can do, and that's Stuart's talking about a lot of times, qualified accounts, how to get that out of there. And there's other ways to gift highly appreciated stock. I think we forget a lot of times donor-advised funds, where we could set up a way where you can, it's kind of an easy bucket, where you can give that money and bless an institution outside of that, and that creates a legacy. And as you grow in wealth, you can set up a family foundation. Now, there's some very strict rules to that. But one of the things I've noticed with those family foundations, Stuart, is that when you tend to have generosity without structure, it'll fade. But if you can then turn that generosity, using structure, it goes into a legacy. And I think that's what's so important to understand. You can gift some of these highly appreciated assets, set up family foundations, get your family involved. There's very direct rules with that. But what a great way to give back and create a legacy and values for your family.
No doubt. And it's interesting, Brad, because a lot of people are concerned that they don't want to have to pass these tax consequences to these charities, right?
Yes.
They don't want to send their IRA because then their church will have to pay tax. But just remember, these are 503c nonprofits. They don't pay tax on the money. So any highly appreciated stock, IRAs, 401ks, any money that you QCD or gift to them, they are not going to pay any tax.
That's correct.
You talked about 70 and a half. The government continues to change rules on RMDs because 70 and a half was there, then to 72, then to 73,
Right.
Going to go to 75. Does this need to be included in?
Well, so here's the thing. It didn't, when the rules changed for the Secure Act, they didn't change the QCD rules. And here's the thing that I didn't mention. These QCDs, these donations you give, actually count against your required minimum distribution. So,
Correct.
so it can, if you don't need the money and you want to give it out of there, you basically are getting the satisfaction of the requirement for RMDs without having to pay any tax on it whatsoever.
Here's something I think that else is fascinating. When we look at what just the changes we've had in the big one beautiful bill, the gifting strategies has gone up substantially. And Wall Street doesn't talk about this. I think the reason why is because they haven't figured out how to make money off this. But you can give $19,000 away per person. So that means a grandfather and a grandmother, that's 19 to the son. The mother gives 19 to the daughter, 19 to the daughter-in-law. You can really create some gifting strategies just by understanding the new rules.
100%. And once again, if we go back to QCD, QCD can actually make people tax-free in some circumstances. So let's say, for example, they wanted to give $10,000 or $20,000 to the church, and you decided to take that $20,000 out of your IRA to give it away. If you didn't do it in the form of a QCD, that may be taxable itself.
Correct.
That may make your Social Security taxable.
Yep.
And it could affect Medicare. It can do all kinds of things. It is completely tax invisible. So I think it's important to have a plan that looks at your specific situation, don't just go on the internet and Google search this. Find an advisor that specializes in QCD.
Joe, I want to put up the tax calculator on the screen, the Wealth Council tax calculator. You've used this as well. Why is this so efficient for people?
Well, I think number one, you got to understand what kind of tax debt I think many folks are sitting on. I don't think they understand. You're compounding interest. Every time you decide to delay, you're just kicking the tax and the tax owed. But more importantly, even let's just say you think, and I think this is wrong, and I know you agree with me, that the tax code will never go up. If you go from a married filing jointly into the widow tax, that person left behind is single, you're talking about a significantly higher taxable situation. So you could really be looking at it from widows out there that are inheriting some money. QCD is huge because it can help satisfy those requirements and really make sure there's a cap on the taxation that I think is just a tax time bomb coming down. You need to know your build-up tax consequences, and this website does that.
And that's what the problem is that a lot of us don't know. So scan the QR code, find out where you are with your qualified money, what Uncle Sam wants from that, and the strategies that you may be able to use now and going forward to pay less taxes. It's an efficient time for you right now. It may not feel that way, but the numbers are going to change. So you're going to want a number. How about a quick call to a number on your screen? Scan that code and claim your complimentary written plan. It is the council's wisdom, but it's your wealth. We're back after this. Have you discussed retirement tax planning with your advisor? Some advisors may be limited in what they can discuss, or they avoid the topic because Roth conversions could reduce the assets they manage, which may influence their income. You deserve advice on your full financial picture, including how tax efficiencies could shape your retirement. Want to explore further? It's your retirement. Make sure the plan is tailored to your interests. Scan the QR code on the screen. Use our free tax calculator today. Welcome back to the Wealth Council. This is The Exchange. 2 advisors, 3 topics, rapid fire, and we go. Mark Henry, Phil Capriotti. The first topic, biggest inflation myth retirees believe. Mark.
Wow. Inflation is going down. It's not easier to live. Let me be very clear about that. Just because inflation's, quote, going down, prices aren't going down. They're just going up slower. And then we have to discuss the household inflation rate. And people go, what are you talking about, Mark, household? Well, there's jobs in my own household that I'm perfectly capable of doing, but I've raised my own personal inflation rate because I don't want to do them. Like, for instance, mowing the grass. Many people viewing this right now, Phil, don't need to be cleaning their gutters. But they still do. They need to raise their household inflation rate. So as retirees age, there are going to be things they choose not to do, and their plan has to be adjusted for inflation to cover raising your household inflation rate.
Biggest inflation myth retirees believe, Phil?
That when they retire, they're going to be in a lower tax bracket. That's the biggest myth as far as I'm concerned. Many retirees have been saving in 401k accounts. They figure that when they retire, they'll file for Social Security. They'll pull distributions from their 401ks or their IRAs, and they'll be in a very low tax bracket. The complete opposite is true. The more you pull from the IRA, the more the Social Security is taxable, 85%. You should be pulling from a Roth instead of an IRA. Big myth.
One topic number 2. One thing retirees should review every single year, Mark.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. One thing they got to review, tax bracket management and getting money out of their 401s, IRAs, and into a Roth. They got to get that done. It has to happen every single year, in my opinion.
Phil, you got one thing?
Absolutely. You want to do Roth conversions. Don't miss an opportunity to do a mock tax return. Do it in the beginning of the year. See how much you can move over into a tax-free account. Pay the tax on the seed, not the crop. You'll be golden in retirement.
All right, we got third topic up. It is biggest Social Security myth that retirees actually believe. I'll start with you, Phil.
Oh, God. File for Social Security early. You'll be better off because you'll collect more, because you'll be collecting more years, hence you'll collect more from Social Security. It's nonsense. The high wage earner should almost always maximize their Social Security, delay as long as possible. During that delay, they can do Roth conversions, because the last thing you want to do is start pulling 70% of your Social Security, 80%. You should be getting 124% of your Social Security.
Biggest Social Security myth for you, Mark?
It's tax-free. It's tax-free. Just ask our current president. It's going to be tax-free. It's going to be tax-free. It's not tax-free. And it will not be tax-free. There's so many things that go into proper Social Security planning and the way it affects your tax return. You have to look at how much you're paying for Medicare. Social Security could have an impact on that along with your other withdrawals, causing your 1040, line on the 1040, to be too high, and it means you're paying more for Medicare than you should be. There's so many factors that go into proper Social Security planning. It's not a one-size-fits-all.
This is The Exchange. Questions on that? Make a quick call to the number on your screen. Let's put together a complimentary written plan just for you. Rapid fire, need more time, This is the Wealth Council. It's the council's wisdom. It's your wealth. Back after this.
The biggest question with Social Security is, when should I take it? The truth is, each person is different. You have to look at expenses, retirement savings, other income sources, even the tax thresholds that could be up to 85%. The best way to maximize your Social Security benefits is to coordinate it with your other income sources. Your retirement income plan should include how to optimize your Social Security. Call right now to get your personalized Social Security optimization report.
Thanks for staying with us on the Wealth Council. Brad Johansson with advisors around the country, continuing to talk about the things that matter to you in retirement. Social Security decisions evolve, do they? We're going to talk about it. Brittany Hagy out of Tennessee and Georgia joining us. Chance Robinson out of Florida. Do they evolve? Look, I've been told that Social Security is the way it is. I can look it up on SSA.gov. I can pick a number where I am right now. I'm a little worried about where Social Security is going. Evolving? I guess it's going to be defunct, so I guess I should take my money now. Chance, lead me off on all these questions I have of Social Security. Is Social Security evolving, or does it have to evolve in my retirement plan?
You know why I like to talk about Social Security? Because it's so simple.
Excuse me?
Yeah, it's so simple. You know, you turn 62, you're eligible, you file, you get a paycheck, and it's done. Like, extremely simple, right?
I believe
we all know better.
You're being facetious.
Absolutely. You know, we all know better. The government tells us everything we need to know about Social Security. Like, realistically, the complexities that revolve around Social Security and all of the unknowns is what kind of trips people up. Understanding the optimal time to file. I am 62. A lot of people take this notion like, hey, I'm 62. I've heard rumors it's not going to be here later down the road.
It's my money.
I want to start drawing it now. Not understanding the implications that will have if I'm still earning income. I got a threshold. I can only earn, roughly $25,000, and then every $2 over that, they're going to deduct one from my Social Security. And then the year that I turn my full retirement age, whether that's 66 or 67, I can earn roughly 50-something thousand, and then it's every $3 over. But when I hit that birthday, now I can earn whatever I want and there's no more penalty, but that doesn't account for the taxation of Social Security, which has its own, it's just so complex. So without sitting down and having a true plan put together to understand all the dynamics and rules around it, you're doing yourself such an injustice to sit there and just say, hey, I don't know, Social Security didn't tell me anything. I filed and they processed it. That's their job, is to process what it is that you file. You only get this option to do this one time correctly in planning your retirement or maybe your spouse. Most people spend more time planning a vacation.
Okay, and maybe your spouse, Brittany, I go to that. You and Jay run your practice together. And how often do we see people make this decision in isolation? One spouse does this, one spouse does that, and there's really not let's do this together because there's probably a strategy to it.
Yeah, that's the problem when they operate more as silos, because what they do is they sell themselves short and they leave money on the table. They leave Social Security benefits on the table when spouses do not coordinate in their filing strategy and in their timing. Thinking about what happens if one predeceases the other, or what the other one continues to receive. Looking at things like that actually help not just in the day-to-day right now, getting more income now, but how is the decisions I'm making now going to impact people in my life down the road?
Yeah.
And is my husband or my spouse going to have what he needs, what they need, if they're not getting my check too? Or how's that going to work?
Well, as we talk about that, it may strike you as funny. 59. 59 is the average age of a widow in America. And what happens when we lose our spouse in dealing with Social Security, Chance?
Well, my father unfortunately passed away 2 weeks before he turned 62 and was eligible. My mother didn't even understand that you could actually start drawing at age 60 if your spouse passes away, but you still have some implications there that you have to take into consideration. Are we still having both incomes in the house? Are there pensions left? What kind of restrictions am I going to have there? Understanding the dynamics of how it really works and just the unknowns that people don't know my big point is I want to educate people to make sure that you're at least asking the questions that says, hey, there's some complexities around this. I need to sit down with somebody who can answer those questions and guide me in the right direction.
Right. And the whole point kind of around this conversation is acknowledging that all of these pieces of our financial picture should be working together. And all too often, we see folks not operating in that way.
Here's my portfolio.
That's
the
what is
plan.
that? That's a statement.
Correct.
Right? Here's a statement. That's my financial plan. That is just a small piece of the puzzle. You're looking at Social Security and you're looking at taxes. You're planning for health care. You're planning for estate documents and how you're going to leave a legacy, all of those things. And if they're not working together, including Social Security, you will leave money on the table. You will pay more in taxes. And I don't know about anyone else, but I don't want to pay more in taxes than I have to, and I don't want to leave money on the table.
How about when you're going to multiple advisors and you're getting 6 different opinions about what you should do, because they're not holistic?
Simplify it. You got to just simplify it. I think people can make it so complicated to build it up in their head and think I have to do all of that. No, the goal is to simplify, make it understandable, make it palatable, and actually make it make sense to where you can keep more money in your pocket.
Interested in simple? Somebody who understands it, maybe a little perspective, done it thousands of times. Is Social Security evolving or devolving? Are you putting together a plan that's going to make sense for the next 30 years in your retirement? Quick call, number on your screen. Scan the QR code. Let's put together a complimentary written plan for you because you aren't like anyone else. Want it simple? Do it now. Counsel's wisdom, your wealth. Back after this.
He's always closer than you think. Want to remove Uncle Sam from your retirement?
You've worked hard to build your wealth, so the next chapter is about using it wisely. Creating income that you can rely on, reducing unnecessary taxes, leaving a legacy that reflects your values. Because a well-designed plan doesn't just support retirement, it defines it. We're glad you joined us. I'm Brad Johansson. We'll see you next time on The Wealth Council.